My mom was on a group FaceTime with 11 members of my extended family, holding up my rejection letter from Duke and literally reading it out loud. And I walked into the kitchen just in time to hear my tia Rosa say, Pobrecito, maybe community college isn't so bad. Let me back up because you need to understand my family to understand why this broke something in me. My name is Marco, I'm 18, and I'm the oldest son of the oldest son. In my family, that means something. My dad, Gabriel, is one of four brothers, and they're all competitive in that way where they say they're not competitive, but everyone keeps score. Who bought a house first? Whose kid made varsity? Whose daughter got a scholarship? It's exhausting, but it's also just the water I've been swimming in since I was born. My mom, Alina, is honestly the sweetest person alive most days. She brags about me to anyone who will listen, the cashier at Target, her coworkers, the woman who does her nails. And I never really minded because I was giving her stuff to brag about. On a roll since 7th grade, captain of the debate team junior year, 1,420 sat, which isn't perfect but is solid. I was the kid the family pointed to and said, "See, he's going somewhere." My little sister, Anna, is 15 and already smarter than me, but she flies under the radar because she's quiet and doesn't do the performative achievement thing the way I learned to. She paints, she reads, she doesn't care if anyone notices. I used to think that was a waste. Now I think she might be the smartest one in this whole house. Here's the thing nobody outside my family would know just from looking at us. My dad didn't go to college. He started working construction at 19, built his way up to managing crews, and now runs a decent business. He's proud of what he built, but there's a chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder. His younger brother, my Tio Alejandro, got a degree from UT Austin and never lets anyone forget it. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every random Sunday barbecue, Tio Alejandro finds a way to bring up his alma mater. He wears the burnt orange. He has the bumper sticker. His son, my cousin David, got into UT Austin last year early admission, and the way my Tio announced it at Christmas dinner, you would have thought David had been elected president. My dad just sat there cutting his brisket, jaw tight, not saying a word. But later that night, when it was just us in the car, he looked at me and said, "You're gonna go somewhere even better, me, Joe, I know it." And that sentence lived in my chest like a grenade for the next 6 months, because I wanted to make that true. I needed to make that true. Not just for me, but for him, for the version of our family's story where we came out on top. I applied to 7 schools. Duke was the reach. Rice was the dream. UT Austin was the safety that didn't feel safe because it would mean being the same as David. And I told no one, not my friends, not my family, not even Anna, how scared I was that none of them would want me. The letters started coming in March, and the first 3 were rejections. Duke said no, Rice said no, Boston University said no. Each one felt like getting punched in the same bruise. I checked my portal, read the first line, closed my laptop, and sat there staring at nothing. I didn't tell my parents. I know that sounds like I was being shady, but you have to understand, I needed time. I needed to process it before it became a family event, before it became something my dad had to feel, before my mom's face did that thing where she looks hurt on my behalf, and somehow that makes it 10 times worse. I was waiting for the other 4 schools to respond. I thought maybe if I could pair the bad news with good news, it would soften the landing. I thought I could control the narrative. I printed the rejection letters, I don't even know why. I think part of me wanted physical proof that it was real, something I could hold and sit with. Stupid, I know. I put them in a folder in my desk drawer under a stack of old calc worksheets, and then on a random Tuesday afternoon, while I was at debate practice, my mom decided to clean my room. She does this sometimes. She says she can't stand the mess. And honestly, it's usually fine because I don't have anything to hide. Except this time I did. She found the folder. She opened it. And instead of waiting for me to come home, instead of texting me, instead of doing literally anything private, she panicked. My mom's version of panicking is calling my dad, and my dad's version of panicking is calling his brothers. And somehow within 2 hours, the information had traveled through our entire family like wildfire through dry brush. By the time I walked through the front door at 5:30, still carrying my debate binder, still thinking about the resolution we'd been practicing, my mom was in the kitchen on a group FaceTime with what looked like every adult relative I've ever known. I heard Tia Rosa first. Her voice has this specific pitch that carries through walls. Pobrecito, maybe community college isn't so bad. Then my uncle Alejandro, of course, chiming in with, well, it's a tough year. Not everyone's cut out for the top schools. And then my mom, wiping her eyes with a dish towel, saw me standing in the doorway and said, "Mijo, why didn't you tell us?" Every single face on that screen turned toward the camera like I was a defendant walking into a courtroom. I could see my cousin David's face in the background of Tio Alejandro's frame, and I swear he was smirking. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe I was projecting. But in that moment, it felt like every fear I'd ever had about not being enough was being broadcast live for an audience. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I set my binder on the counter, looked at my mom, and said, "You went through my stuff." She blinked. "I was cleaning your room, Marco. You read my private letters and told everyone before I even got home." My dad's voice came from behind me. He was in the hallway, arms crossed, and his face wasn't angry, it was something worse. It was disappointed. Not in me, not exactly. More like disappointed in the universe. "Why'd you hide it?" he asked. "We could have helped." And I remember thinking, helped with what? The rejection was already done. There was no helping. There was only witnessing, and I hadn't been ready for witnesses yet. The next 3 days were the worst of my life. My phone blew up. Cousins I barely talked to were texting me with "sorry, bro," and "college isn't everything." And one of them, my cousin Priya from my mom's side, sent me a TikTok about gap years that I wanted to throw my phone over. My Tio Alejandro called my dad the next morning, and I could hear the conversation through the wall because my dad was pacing in the garage. Alejandro was doing that thing where he pretends to be supportive but is actually condescending. "You know, Gabe, not every kid is built for the university path. There's no shame in trade school. You turned out fine." You turned out fine, like my dad's entire life was a consolation prize. I heard my dad go quiet for a long time, and then he just said, "Thanks, Alex," and hung up. When he came back inside, he looked at me and said, "You need to get into one of those other schools, Marco." Not mean, not threatening. Just honest and desperate and a little bit broken, and I felt the weight of his entire life on my shoulders. My mom, meanwhile, didn't understand why I was upset with her. She kept saying she had a right to know, that in this family we don't keep secrets, that she was just worried. And she was right about being worried, but she wasn't right about airing my failure to everyone we're related to before I even had a chance to sit down and feel it. We got into it that night. Real talk, voices raised, my sister Anna sitting on the stairs listening. My mom said, "I'm your mother, your pain is my pain." And I said, "Then why did you make my pain everyone else's entertainment?" She didn't have an answer for that. She just started crying, and I felt like the worst person alive, even though I still believe I was right. Here's the part that wrecked me. A week later, I got into University of Michigan. Solid school, great program, I should have been thrilled. My mom posted about it on Facebook within an hour, and the congratulations started rolling in. But 2 days after that, Anna showed me something she'd found on her own, because apparently snooping runs in this family. It was a text thread between my mom and Tia Rosa from the day she found the letters. Before the group FaceTime happened, my mom had written, "I failed him, I should have pushed him harder. Gabriel is going to blame me." And Rosa had written back, "Put it on the call. Everyone will see it's not your fault. Alejandro's kid isn't that special either." My mom didn't call everyone to humiliate me. She called them because she was terrified my dad would blame her, and she wanted witnesses who'd back her up. She was protecting herself. And that realization made me feel something I still can't fully name, angry and heartbroken and guilty all at the same time. So here's where things stand now. I'm going to Michigan in the fall, and I'm actually excited about it. My dad and Tio Alejandro aren't really speaking, which honestly might be an improvement. My mom and I are okay, but there's this new carefulness between us, like we're both walking around a crack in the floor, trying not to look down. She still thinks she didn't do anything wrong. I still think she did. But I also know I should have told my parents sooner instead of hiding in my own head and thinking I could manage everything alone. I was so obsessed with controlling the story that I lost control of it completely. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe I don't get to decide when other people are allowed to care about my life, even when their caring feels like an invasion. But I genuinely don't know. So tell me, was my mom wrong for telling the whole family before talking to me? Or was I wrong for hiding it in the first place? Because I've been going back and forth for months now, and I still don't have an answer.